Hello, recruit, and welcome to Astroneer Academy 302. It's more fun with a friend. The solar system can be a lonely place at times, but it doesn't have to be. Exodynamics has made it possible to join together with other astroneers so that, together, you can solve mysteries, build bases, or even just get up to some good old shenanigans. And there are numerous ways for you to step into another astroneer's solar system. And it is at this point that I need to break the proverbial fourth wall here. At Astroneer Academy, we've gone to great lengths to create a level of immersion for each course, doing our best to avoid referring to Astroneer as a video game. But we have found it rather difficult to talk about multiplayer, servers, and crossplay and keep that level of immersion. But we do promise to step back behind the fourth wall in the next video. So, with that out of the way, today we're going to talk about multiplayer games of Astroneer. From early on in its development, multiplayer has brought even more fun to Astroneer. I remember my own first games during early access. I often accidentally dug too near tethers, cutting everybody off from their precious oxygen supply. I was also that guy who ran off and died repeatedly, often losing precious equipment in the process. And of course, one of my favorite pastimes was simply digging a hole under a friend when they weren't really paying attention. Yeah, I know, shame on me. And I think it was the multiplayer aspect that really helped Astroneer grab hold of gamers' imaginations early on. Some big name content creators picked up the game and had a laugh a minute with games full of fun, discoveries, and working together. And all of that carried over from early access into Astroneer's launch. And today, we have several choices for how we can have multiplayer games. That first one's always been with us. One player hosts a game on their PC or console, and their friends join in. If you're curious about how that system works, let's break it down in the usual detailed analysis that you've come to expect from the Astroneer Academy. Regardless of platform, if you want to play Astroneer with somebody else, they need to be on your friends list. On Steam, you also need to appear online on your friends list for other players to join you. You can either send them a game invite, or they can join you through their friends list. You can also join their game from within Astroneer itself. Simply hit the pause menu, head over to the co-op icon, and joinable players will be listed right at the top. On consoles, the process is essentially the same, except you'll be utilizing your PlayStation or Xbox friends lists. But regardless of platform, joining someone for the first time can be a bit confusing. You click on Join Game and then you see a loading screen. But once that loading screen finishes, you're right back at the LREV looking down at Silva. It's from this point that you simply need to click launch and then be whisked away to the planet's surface. If you have never joined your friend in that particular save file, you will land at the starting shelter on Silva. If the friend you're joining is somewhere else, they will most likely need to pick you up if you want to explore together in the same general location. And as a quick pro tip, I always try to leave a shuttle and a thruster near the starting shelter just for such occasions. That way, I can just tell my friends what planet I'm on and then they can fly up and meet me there. Winds up saving everybody quite a bit of time. Once you are in a player-hosted game together, your only limit on what you can do is your imagination. Whether you're trying to unlock multiplayer-based achievements, build a new base, pursue the story of Astroneer, or just goof around, it is always more fun with a friend. I know for me personally, my best memories in Astroneer are, hands down, always from multiplayer games. With my friends, I learned all of the basics of Astroneer, and as we learned those basics, we worked together to begin making progress through the game. Having people with me to experience new discoveries and unlocking various puzzles and mysteries made those moments even better. And of course, if it were not for multiplayer, I would have never taken on a project to blow up a mountain with 10,000 hydrogen canisters. And that's not to say that multiplayer hasn't been without its issues. While most of the issues have been resolved through game updates, the player hosting the game can still experience poor performance since their PC or console is having to process a lot more information than it would in a single player game. On top of that, any items that a player had in their backpack when they left the game remain in their backpack. If they were carrying around a bunch of much needed batteries or maybe even only the Drill Mod 3 that you had, well, you're not going to be able to get those items back until they rejoin. So remember, Astroneers, always empty your backpack before you exit a multiplayer game. Your game hosts will thank you. The recent addition of dedicated servers has opened up an entirely new set of options for those seeking to play together. Systemera, the creators of Astroneer, have partnered with Nitrado for official dedicated servers. The process of running the server, setting it up, and then management is such an involved topic that it warranted its own video. You can check out that Astroneer Academy Extra video by clicking on the card on your screen or through the Astroneer Academy playlist linked at the end of the video. Once you have your own server, or at least know of a server that you can connect to, a whole new world does open up. Regular multiplayer games limit you to just 4 players, and with just 4 people, you can begin to make very quick progress through the game. But the dedicated servers double that player limit, allowing up to 8 people to play together at once. My mind has been completely blown by just how quickly things move when that many people are playing together. In the early game, one player can start scouting caves for laterite and sphalerite, while a couple other players can head out to start collecting power producers and batteries from debris. Other players can begin scanning research items and collecting research objects for the research chamber. All the while, there's still players back at the starting base crafting platforms, gathering basic resources, and just putting everything together. In what seems like no time at all, you have enough bytes to unlock shuttles for space travel, and players begin to fan out across the solar system. One might wind up on Calidor to mine for some wolframite. A couple others head to Glacio and Atrox to find some high byte value research objects. And another might head to Visanya to venture into the caves to mine for lithium. On the vainglorious Astroneer server, it didn't take too long before people started establishing purpose-built bases on other planets. Sure, some do stay back on Silva, which is serving as our base of operations. There, they are crafting more vehicles, batteries, RTGs, hydrazine, and other items to assist with exploration. A couple of people headed over to Atrox, where they built an outpost to attain numerous gases. They also built walls around the gateway chamber. Not really sure why, but they did, and well, it's there. And myself, well, of course I headed to Glacio, and have begun setting up a small base that will essentially serve as a research hub to generate thousands of bytes per second. Dedicated servers also open up a couple of other new options for multiplayer as well. To start with, the server is almost always available. Gone are the days of waiting for someone who was hosting the game to be online and ready to play Astroneer. Instead, you can just join the server and pick right up where you left off, and you can do that anytime you want. Even if nobody else is online at the time, you can continue whatever project you were working on. This is especially useful if you play with friends from different parts of the world. In the past, you might have had difficulty finding a time that worked for everyone. Now it just doesn't matter. People can drop in and out as they wish and contribute to your progress without having to coordinate schedules of people scattered all around the Earth. The second new option that official Astroneer servers open up is cross-platform play. At the time this video was uploaded, players with Steam, Microsoft Store, and Xbox versions of the game can all play together on a single server. That type of crossplay just wasn't possible in regular multiplayer games that were hosted on one player's machine. While PlayStation 4 players cannot currently join in on the crossplay fun, Systemera has assured us that they are hard at work to bring you into the fold as well. Astroneer only recently launched on PlayStation 4, so it's not surprising that it's going to take just a little bit longer for Astroneer crossplay to come to the PlayStation. And of course, I don't want to pretend that dedicated servers are altogether perfect, because they're not. While Systemera has resolved a ton of countless multiplayer-related performance issues and gameplay bugs, a few still linger. For example, many players are unable to use their terrain tool after flying to another planet. To resume using their terrain tool, they first have to let their character die. Also, the player's backpack often desyncs from the chosen color palette and goes back to the default blue and white. You can restore that palette by simply hovering the pointer over any palette in the customization menu. And sometimes, shuttles lose their ability to launch into a view of the solar system that allows you to then select a different planet to travel to. If you land, remove, and then reattach your thruster, the problem's usually resolved. If you have a hydrazine thruster and you get a need fuel error even when there's hydrazine connected, just land, disconnect the hydrazine, and reconnect it. And one of the weirdest bugs causes objects to float in the air or just above the ground. If you pick it up, you most likely hear another player ask what happened to that object. Apparently, the object's location was out of sync amongst players, and what you see as just floating is most likely attached to the player's backpack, vehicle, or storage in some location. So for now, it's probably not a good idea to pick up things that seem to be randomly floating around. I would be remiss if I pointed out some of the flaws of dedicated servers without also taking a moment to say that I have confidence that Systemera will sort out these issues over time. Many of us are used to playing games that are produced by large studios with massive budgets, but Systemera is a relatively small studio in terms of staffing, so it's unrealistic to expect them to be able to stomp out every single bug at once or to roll out weekly bug fixes. If you do encounter bugs in your game, whether in solo games or multiplayer, then head over to the official Astroneer Discord game help channel. a lot of issues can be sorted out quickly right through chat. You can also check out the Astroneer subreddit to see if there are other players who have encountered the same issue and find out if there's a solution. If you can't get a resolution from those two sources, then you should report your bugs to support@systemera.net or head over to the official Astroneer subreddit and post it there. But just don't jump straight to email. If there are a lot of support requests, you might be waiting a while to hear back from Systemera. In that same amount of time, there's a chance you could have found a solution on Discord or Reddit. Systemera is working very hard to address issue with the game. While some bugs do stick around for a while, it is important to remember that they have to address the bugs that have the biggest impacts in terms of performance and gameplay. If a bug is breaking the game or causing severe performance issues, it is going to receive higher priority over something that is less severe. There is one other method for playing Astroneer with friends, and that is via self-hosted servers. Using your own hardware and internet connection, you can download and install the necessary software to set up your own Astroneer server. The process of setting up a self-hosted server is way beyond the scope of Astroneer Academy, however, so we're not going to be covering that in detail. There are just far too many hardware configurations, network types, and hosting solutions for us to even begin addressing all of it. But if you do need some help with the self-hosted server, you can head over to the Astroneer Discord, where they have a channel set up just for self-hosted server owners to help each other. Now, there are some caveats to self-hosted servers that are worth mentioning. First, crossplay functionality is not possible on self-hosted servers. While you may be tempted to direct your frustration towards Systemera for this limitation, remember, they have to meet requirements of multiple partners to enable crossplay functionality. Microsoft simply is not going to let their Xbox users connect to just any old hardware, so the cross-platform play is limited to official Nitrado dedicated servers only. Second, achievements and customization unlocks are disabled on self-hosted servers. There are back-end services at work when you unlock an achievement in Astroneer to verify that you receive the achievements and customizations. That is why if you play Astroneer offline, you'll often find that cosmetics you had unlocked are not available. Once you're back online, those unlocked items are available again. All of that is authenticated on the back end. And while Systemera could enable self-hosted servers to authenticate achievements and customization progress, they have no way to verify that the game files on a self-hosted server haven't been tinkered with via mods or other shenanigans that would allow a player to unlock things that they have not truly earned. Now that we've covered all the various ways to play together, what do you do if you really don't know anybody else who plays Astroneer, but you really want someone to play with? Well, your best option is to head over to the official Astroneer Discord and get a platform-specific role in the roles channel. Then head to your platform-specific multiplayer channel and start talking. You should be able to find players willing to join, especially if you have a specific goal or achievement in mind. And of course, my own Vainglorious Discord server has several members who play Astroneer, so you can always join our server and ask around as well. We also have our own dedicated server on Nitrado that is open to active members of the Vainglorious community. So hit us up on Discord, become one of the regulars, and you'll have a server that you can always play on with others. The Astroneer Discord also has a list of servers that your fellow players have graciously opened up to the public, giving you a place that you can connect with others. Before we wrap it up, I want to spend the next few minutes talking about proper etiquette for Astroneer multiplayer. Whether you're playing via a locally hosted multiplayer game or on a server, there are some general things you should keep in mind to ensure you don't wind up blacklisted and unable to play Astroneer with others. If you are connecting to somebody else's server or game, use common sense and courtesy, and be respectful and considerate of your other players. But before I get into specific for players, I want to give hosts and server owners a good bit of advice. If you have rules or expectations for players that are going to be joining your server or your game, make those rules and expectations clearly known. You can't fault a player for going rogue if you didn't establish some ground rules to start with. Now, for players joining a game or a server that you don't own, I reached out to all of the Astroneer Academy Advanced Astroneers to put together a rather comprehensive list of do's and don'ts that you should follow. I'll start with an obvious one that shouldn't need to be said, but I'll cover it anyway. Don't use cheats and trainers. You will be spoiling the fun for everybody. On top of that, auto clickers and macros tend to be a pretty bad idea on servers as well. When you join a game or a server, find out if there's a group objective, challenge, or overall plan going on. In fact, it's a good idea just to communicate in general with your fellow players. Since Astroneer does not have built-in text or voice chat, you will need to rely on some other platform. Your best option would be the official Astroneer Discord server. Even if you don't have a mic, you can still connect to a voice channel to hear other players in your game, and you can respond via text. If you do have a mic and you're playing at a place that has noise in the background, please use push to talk. Also, don't use voice changers. Nobody likes players who use voice changers. Don't join a game or a server and make a mess of things or start rearranging everything to suit yourself. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're on a server and you see an object or resource floating in the air, don't touch it. It probably belongs on somebody's backpack or vehicle. Also, don't ever declare something yours and off limits to other players. If you need that sort of boundary, Astroneer has a wonderful single player experience that will allow you to lay claim to an entire solar system. On the flip side of that, if you didn't mine or craft a resource or object, ask around before using it. Somebody might have been in the middle of a project and won't appreciate you laying claim to those resources and objects. Going hand in hand, if you use the last of a resource or crafted object, replace it before you log off. If you make a large hole while mining for resources, cover it up before you move on to a new area. This is especially true near bases and other high traffic areas, but it should just be a general good practice that you follow. If you need a soil mine, ask if there's one already established somewhere before you start leaving massive holes or erasing entire mountains just to fill up your own canisters. With a limited draw distance and occasional performance hiccups on servers, a huge hole may not render in for another player until they're actually falling into it. It's already happened to me once. I was driving a tractor along on Silva and things looked fine. The next thing I knew, I was in the middle of a massive crater that somebody had dug out and not bothered covering. That lack of consideration resulted in my frustration because I had to work to get my tractor back up to the surface. If you use a vehicle, return it to where you found it before you leave the game. And if you create a vehicle, it's not a bad idea to put a beacon on it so other players can easily find it. That'll also help with locating missing vehicles that result from players who may experience an unexpected disconnection. And when it comes to shuttles, it's a good idea to get into the habit of moving your shuttle from its landing spot the moment you exit the shuttle. If you don't move your shuttle, another player can't land there. Unexpected disconnections happen, or maybe somebody else just wants to come hang out. But if you didn't move your shuttle when you landed, you're going to be blocking other players from landing there. Don't start blowing up things or just chucking stuff into a shredder. If you need scrap, go find debris and create scrap from that. And speaking of explosions, you really should avoid large bombs without getting permission first. Massive explosions can cause all sorts of performance issues even long after they've exploded, and you'll be causing all players on the server or the hosted game to have a bad time. Also, for the sake of performance, if the game or server is in creative mode, don't spam out numerous duplicates of an object or resource that you don't need. If you do wind up going a bit overboard with duplicating items, be sure to clean them up before you leave. And whether you're in a creative or adventure game, utilize storage for resources and objects. Leaving things lying on the ground causes performance problems. Before you exit the game, head back to the main base and empty your backpack of all items. There's currently a bug on servers that can cause these items to disappear. And even once this bug is patched, it's still just a considerate practice to leave those resources and objects from your backpack for other players to use while you're not online. And finally, be considerate of other players' skill levels. Some players are brand new to Astroneer, while others are seasoned veterans. Be patient with the newer players. Let them make their mistakes and struggle a little bit. Respect newer players' opinions and do not try to play the game for them. Allow them to experience that same sense of discovery and wonder that you felt when you were new to Astroneer. If you can figure it all out, they can too. You can be there to help if they ask for it, but don't just start guiding the new player through everything. Of course, if you encounter somebody who's really struggling, you may want to refer them to the Astroneer Academy playlist so they can get caught up to speed. But all of this means that you should probably also avoid going into full-on try-hard mode by single-handedly powering all the gateway chambers or engines or completing other portions of the game. Now that you have mastered all the ways you can join together with fellow Astroneers, along with some common courtesy to ensure that everybody has fun, we'll be taking a look at how you can spend some of that co-op time, or even some alone time, with some much needed recreation. In Astroneer Academy 303, we will be looking at all of the objects that we have at our disposal for the express purposes of keeping ourselves entertained, as well as some of the unique creations fellow Astroneers has made to distract us from all the work that Exodynamics wants from us. But until then, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.